Hi, I'm Margaret, and today I'm making these huge sausage rolls from scratch. So let's start with that light buttery puff pastry. This pastry is very similar to the pastry I used a few weeks ago with the vanilla slices. The butter is grated and frozen. When I'm making puff pastry, I like to keep everything really cool. This of course keeps the butter cool, which keeps it solid, and then when it bakes in the oven, the butter melts and produces lots of lovely little air pockets, which makes the pastry so beautifully buttery and light. There's lots of folding and rolling out again in puff pastry, and in between this it has to be kept cold in the fridge, so it does take a little while to make, but homemade puff pastry is so much nicer than store-bought. So it's well worth the effort if you want light and buttery pastry. I was thinking, if the pastry's rolled out 7 times and folded into thirds 7 times, I wonder how many layers there are. So while that pastry's cooling, let's make the filling. I'm going to cook these 3 ingredients in a pan, just to develop the flavour before they get mixed into the rest of the ingredients. The lardons have lots of fat, and that's going to make these sausage rolls lovely and juicy. And I'm going to cook these until the onions becomes soft. The next job is to mix all the other ingredients together. Together, these ingredients will make these sausage rolls taste lovely. Now, the only thing that's missing is a little bit of rusk. This does the same job as breadcrumbs would do. In sausage rolls, the fat gives a lovely flavour, but we don't want it making the pastry soggy, so the rusk soaks up that fat and keeps the flavour. In order to get the right texture, I'm going to work it with my hands for a little bit. Not as much as meatballs, we don't want that really tight texture, but we do want it to be firmer. I've weighed these two so they're exactly the same. I want to get 2 nice sausages out of this, and the cling film's going to help me do it. I want to make sure there's no air or little air in the cling film. I'm going to wrap it quite tightly and then squidge up the ends and roll it so it becomes a bit like a sausage skin. Let's do this with the other one. Tightly round, give it a roll, and then tie up the edges, pushing out the air as we go. There we go. They can go into the fridge now to firm up a little bit before we use them. Okay, we're ready to build. A little bit of flour, and let's get that pastry and cut it in half. I'll show you what the inside looks like. You can see all the layers in this. There we go. I'm going to roll each one of these separately, so let's pop one back in the fridge to keep nice and cool while we work on this one. And it needs to be as long as a sausage and wide enough to wrap round. When we think it's about right, we can test it for size with the sausage. There we go, that should do. Now I'm going to cut the edges of this pastry just to make sure that it rises properly, because those edges have been a bit squashed. There we go. Now we don't want it too thick where it folds over. So after cutting this, I'm going to just roll it a little bit so that one edge is thinner than the other. I'll have to make sure it still fits after cutting the edges. Oh, a little bit more. Right, take off that cling film and pop it in. Then we just need a little bit of egg wash to stick the two ends together, just along one side, that thin side. And when the second one's done, I'm going to pop them back in the fridge again so that they're nice and cool for when they start baking. Let's just cut these to size now. I think cut it into 3. Now let's pop them back on the baking paper so they're ready for the oven. And they'll need a little bit of an egg wash now, just to make them lovely and golden when they come out of the oven. And finally, a few sesame seeds to give them a bit of a crunch and also to make them quite pretty on top. And there they are, fresh out of the oven. Thanks for dropping by. I hope you've enjoyed the video. Catch you soon.